shake the ground with the sounds of revival. Let heaven roll, fire fall. Gonna shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roll, fire fall. Gonna shake the ground with the sound of revival. We see and watch the video.
In the winter of 2008, aRE Jacobs and his brother-in-law Wyatt entered the remote icy tundra of northern Saskatchewan to make a documentary film about social isolation. The team was never heard from again. Later that summer, their footage was discovered by a group of caribou hunters. What you are about to see is that very same footage.
It's a cold world out there, folks. And I'm not talking about global warming. I'm talking about the winter of the soul.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it is cold right here. It is cold. It's cold right here.
And right here we are in lovely northern Saskatchewan.
Also known as winter's bedpan.
We're here to experience the world at its coldest. A beautiful metaphor of how we have cut the heart of humanity, and all we do is care more about ourselves than anything else than anybody else. Oh yes, my friends, it is cold.
I have no idea what your flowery artsy words mean, but I am freezing.
Where can we find the warmth of community? Like what's found in the good book of 1 John 1:7, where it says, we must have rich, full fellowship, like that you find in a small group.
Yes, let's go join a small group, one that meets indoors where it is warm right now.
And lest I remind you of Romans 12:16, where it says, we must live in harmony.
Which is just the opposite of what I'm about to do to you right now.
And unlike my compadre right here, we must do what James 4:11 says, and we must speak with wholesome words to one another.
Speak of wholesome words. Parents, please cup your children's ears, for I'm about to let go with a slew of words to express just how cold I am. I'm talking words that are generally reserved for hockey players and pageant moms.
We gotta stop worrying so much about Botox and this and an app for that and texting instead of talking, and we want things now, and Facebook until we're foul. All right, my friend, you're just proving my point here. You're just proving my point.
No, I am calling 911. My phone is frozen. It doesn't work. I'm losing feeling in my lower extremities. Stand down.
I just don't think people care anymore.
Why don't you care about me?
Don't get lost in the cold. Join a small group. It's what Wyatt and aRE would have wanted.
Good morning. Glad we're in here, not where Wyatt and aRE are at right now, right? It might be that way tomorrow morning, but at least we're here warm inside right now. So, hey, let me just welcome you today. Glad you're here. My name is Pastor John. For those of you who don't know me, I'm small groups pastor, and I just want to be the first to welcome you today. If you're joining us online, a special welcome to you as well. Hopefully when you came in, you received a little handout that looks like this, and inside there's a slew of announcements that you need to know about, so pay attention to some of those, as well as there's a connection card. And on that connection card, it looks a little bit like that. If you're looking at your screen, that's where some of our folks will write down prayer needs, or if they're signing up for things and things like that. But we would love, if you're visiting with us, for you just to put a little bit of information about yourself on there. We'd love to send you a card or a note and just say, hey, thank you for worshiping with us today. On your way out the door, through the big garage door, there's a little basket over in our giving center. You can just drop that card there in the giving center. There's also a free gift for you over there, a book for you to take. It's just our way of saying thank you for being with us. Thank you for worshiping with us today. A couple of announcements I do want to highlight. First and foremost is in a couple of weeks, we will be starting back small groups. Just as the video said, it's super important. It's a huge part of our church for us to invite you to be a part of a small group. It is where friendships are made. It is where community is made. It is where you grow more in your walk with God, other than just a Sunday morning experience. And so we really encourage you to make a point of getting involved in a small group. If you're wanting to know when and where those groups are meeting, they meet all throughout the Springfield area throughout the week. Over in our guest services area, there's a brochure that looks just like this. And it has a list of all the small groups and the times, the places that they are meeting. So please grab one of those and get connected. If you want to talk to someone about small groups, that would be me. And so sign up on your connection card. Hey, I'd like to chat with somebody about a small group, see if someone can help me get connected. Just write it on your connection card, and I will make a connection with you this week through email or through phone number, whatever you want to provide me with. And so, again, we just want to make sure you have an opportunity to get connected to a small group. The other thing I want you to be aware of is on February the 9th, we'll be having a Valentine's banquet, and that is at 6:30. It is $5 per person, and here's what that is. If you have an opportunity just to come that evening and have an opportunity to fellowship with other people, whether you are a couple, whether you are single, it does not matter. We want you to be a part of that if you want to be a part of that. The cool thing is it is a pasta dinner served by the Northbridge Youth Group. All right, so that's a great opportunity for you just to come, be served. It's a great opportunity if you have some friends or family that you want to try to connect to a church body or get to know a little bit about who some of the folks here are. It's a great opportunity to invite them just to be a part of a casual dinner, a fellowship, hanging out. There'll be a guest speaker that evening. And again, those are $5. Scott, raise your hand for me over there. Scott Madden, our youth minister, he has tickets available that you can purchase from him, as well as you can sign up for a ticket on the connection card, and he will make sure and reserve you and your family some tickets if you need those, okay? So those are the announcements I want to highlight. Go ahead and stand to your feet if you would, and take a moment. If you want to grab a cup of coffee, a water, go ahead and do that now, or greet somebody.
myself as a prayer today. 1,000 times I failed. 1,000 times I failed. Still your mercy remains. And should I stumble again, I'm caught in your grace. Everlasting, your light will shine. When all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond the The will above us, my focus remains. You fill above all else, still my purpose remains. The art of losing myself
today, that our hearts and our souls are consumed by what God has for us, and that we follow after him and we pursue after him. My heart and my soul, I give you control. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out.
God, we worship you here. God, we worship you now. We worship you with our hearts. God, may you be glorified. May you be honored and blessed by what you see and what you hear from your people. God, and when you look inside of us, when you look in our hearts, God, would you see true worship? God, would you see a true desire to bless you and bless your name? God, we thank you for who you are and what you're going to do this morning, God, what you've already done this morning. Just ask that you would speak to us now, God. It's in your name.
Amen. Hey, maybe for some of you feel a bit uncomfortable praising God by raising your hands or by even raising your voices, but for all of us, if you just want to give a praise to God out, it's totally appropriate. Just give a hand clap and just say, God, thank you, thank you. Us applauding is just saying, God, we applaud you. We applaud your works in our lives. We applaud the work that you're doing in this world. And so definitely very appropriate today. And let me also let you know that if you're new to Northbridge and it's your first or second time being here and you see in the bulletin there that Pastor Mike is speaking today, you might be sitting back going, man, that guy, Pastor Mike, gets better looking every time he comes up there. And I want you to know I'm not Pastor Mike. He was unable to be here today because he got word on Friday morning that his mother was taking a turn for the worse. For those who don't know, about 8 years ago, she suffered a stroke and just has been bedridden, been in a nursing home, long-term care, really ever since then. And so they got word that things were looking pretty grim. So Pastor Mike and his wife Vicki and Amanda went up to Wichita on Saturday morning, and they're there currently. And I don't know, they might have joined us online today. I'm not for certain if they were on during first service or not, or if they're here now with us. I believe Josh, their son, is arrived in last night with them. So, keep them in your prayers as they're kind of saying goodbye to their mother and their grandmother. One of the things I would say is I recognize that all of you love Pastor Mike and his family very much. And so the inclination might be, hey, let's show up at their home. Let's send them a pot roast, or let's, do the things that we do when people grieve. I don't know why it is when we grieve, we eat, And so let me just tell you that I would imagine if 80 or 90 folks arrive at Pastor Mike's doorstep, that would be a bit overwhelming. So small group, those of you who are in Pastor Mike and Vicky's small group, it's up to you to minister, to be the point people, to minister to this family. And those of you that are in Amanda's small group, it's up to you to be the point people to minister to her. But I would also say this, for church family, if you're an owner at Northbridge, it is certainly very appropriate. And I would encourage you, write a card out. Send a card to them. Send a note. Send an email or a text message. Just let them know that they're in your prayers and that you're thinking of them through this season. That would be highly appreciated and valued on their behalf, I know. And then, of course, too, obviously, Pastor Mike was scheduled to speak today. And so he, when he was telling me about what was going on Friday, it was still his heart that he was going to go up there and make a trip to Wichita and be with his mother and then somehow figure out how to get back down here to speak today. And I just said, hey, no, time out. No, we're not going to do that. That's not healthy. That's not right for you. You need to be with your family today. And that's one of the beautiful things about serving in this environment that we serve in, with a team teaching approach and a team pastor approach, and that when one is down, someone else can step up and kind of fill in the gap. And so that's what we're doing today. And I kind of I was tapped on the shoulder last minute to come and speak in this series. We are in the area of serving, in the area that we reignite our passion to serve, and we re-enlist folks. Because here's the thing, one of the things I'll say first of all, before I invite some people to come up here and speak with me, is this church is a serving church. And I recognize that about 90% of the folks who come here on day in, day out basis serve in some way. And so it might be that you've been serving so long that you're just getting worn a little bit. And it's easy for you just to be like, enough. Can I just take a break for a little bit? Can I have a few months to myself? And this time we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the fact that in order for God's glorious purpose to be carried out, He needs you. He has invited you to join Him in service. And so one of the things I want to do is invite some people who have some experience in serving this church, serving other churches in their past, to come up and share with me today. So Dana, if you'd come up, Garrett, if you'd come up, Christy, if you'd come up, I invite you to join me on stage right now as we talk a little bit about how you've experienced serving and being servants in the church. So if you would like to give a hand to these three brave people, it's appropriate to do that. Okay, so who are you? I've given you your first names, but many of these people might not know or have a clue who you are. Tell me, who are you?
Go ahead. Sorry. I'm Dana Turner, and during the week I am an optometrist, and then I'm Tony's wife.
And we figured out the first hour that she's my wife 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So full-time my wife is a full-time job, so I'm not accepting resumes.
That's good. My name is Garrett Prevost, and professionally I'm an assistant principal at Republic High School.
And I'm Christy Love. I am the founder and executive director of a women's ministry internationally called Lead Her.
Lead Her, and that specifically works, it's interdenominational, interchurch, basically empowering women to serve,
Right.
Serve the Lord in their families, in their lives, in their churches, correct?
Right. Understanding that where you are, you have influence and impact.
Okay. Now, you guys, one of the things that why your names came to mind is you're not the only people serving by any means within our church, but you all have had experience in your lives of serving the church and serving God's purposes. Talk to me a little bit. Christy, why don't you start out just sharing about maybe an experience, or not experience, but just some serving opportunities you've had in the past that kind of stick out to you in your mind.
Oh my goodness. So many. You know, I think really when it's talking about serving opportunities, it's really, He gives us those every day, all the time. And so it's the ones we choose to take and the ones that we choose to not be obedient in. And so some of the ones that really stand out in my mind are, the people He's brought across my path.
Yeah.
Opportunities to pour into people, to mentor, to really invest in relationships with people, even in small groups or things like that. Our ministry is big, but some of the biggest impact that I've had is in the small ways that He's given me to serve.
Yeah.
I've done a variety of things. I grew up in church all my life pretty much, and so fresh out of college, I got involved in the church I was going and had the Awana ministry. So I was involved in that with 5th and 6th grade boys for a while. Been involved in small group leadership opportunities, serving in nursery, those types of things. It kind of seems like, for the most part, professionally, my life is about kids, and so it seems like God has used that bend in me a little bit to find opportunities to serve kids as well.
So for you can say, hey, God's kind of molded me to serve in the places you've served, and that kind of put that passion, aligned your passions and skill sets along with what your calling is.
And even now, I mean, leadership is kind of that's what I do professionally as well. Yeah. And so even now I see how God is kind of using some of those things within me to take me in other directions as well. Okay. Good.
The same as Garrett. I mean, obviously I've served and grown up in church. The last few years, though, some things I've been involved in here is the nursery ministry. And then professionally, I volunteered for about 2.5 years and did free eye exams at the kitchen clinic for the needy. So
had an opportunity to use your skill set also to bless people around you that, let's face it, let's praise the Lord that I'm not feeling a calling to go and help fix people's eyes. That would be a problem. There would be some malpractice going on there, I imagine. So, okay, very good. Well, talk to me because, Christy, you alluded to this a little bit about blessing others and seeing how you've impacted others and some of the fruits of that. I'll give you kind of a two-part question. You can answer either part of this, and that is that, for any of you, that is, when we serve, we see blessings in others, that we serve other people, and so we sometimes see the fruit, sometimes we don't, but there's fruit that's born out of that. But then we also have fruit that we get blessed ourselves. God does a work inside of us. So share with me, have you experienced the blessing of other people, other people growing because of your efforts, and or how has God shaped you in the midst of your serving opportunities? And you could take either one of those or both of those, whatever you want to do. We're pretty free up here.
Big question. I think for me, I struggled a lot in stepping out to serve. I tried to offer up every excuse that I could why he needed to pick somebody different to found a ministry. But ultimately for me, it came down to the fact that my disobedience was going to stop blessings in other people's lives too. And so I had to overcome a lot of those to get to the point where I said, okay, this is what you're asking of me. I'm going to be obedient to that. But yes, stepping out has blessed others, but it has blessed me so much more because I think he has grown me in my faith through revealing his character so much in that chance.
That's a good word there because we say, God, make me like Jesus or give me your heart. And so oftentimes it seems like when I pray that, I'm thinking, well, I want to be more holy or I want to be more loving or more kind or more long-suffering. But really a characteristic of Jesus, and it was a characteristic of his Father, was servant. Mm-hmm. And so is it a surprise when we say, God, make us more like your Son, that wouldn't that be one of the first things he starts building in us is the servanthood mindset?
One of the biggest things I think I've learned in my serving opportunities is that sometimes the feelings, the real deep desire, if you will, to jump in the middle of this ministry may not be there right off the get-go. But sometimes it's a matter of you have to behave in a certain way first and trust that the feelings will eventually come. I talk about that in my job with teachers all the time. You do what's right and trust that the feelings will come eventually. And so, I was teasing Dana earlier. I don't necessarily always just look forward to, serving with the nursery.
That's shocking. I can't believe it.
But you know what? That's something I've been called to do. And once I get in there and do it, I enjoy being around the little twerps. But sometimes you have to do the right thing, do what you're called to do, and trust that God will give you that desire as you continue to do the right thing.
Yeah. Dana, how have you experienced that? As far as what Garrett's even speaking on, of desire and wanting.
Yeah, the same thing. I found myself 3 years ago not necessarily having or serving here in the church building. And I looked around, where was there a need? And the need was in the nursery. And, like I said earlier in the first service, if you polled 5 of my closest friends and family, I doubt they would pick nursery for me to serve in. But
let me pause right there. I didn't do this in the first hour, so you're looking at me like, what are you going to say? I get that. Welcome to my life. When she told me she was going to wanted to serve and was going to talk to Kay about serving the nursery, I was like, what are you thinking? Do you want to do this to yourself? And there you go. Yeah,
and honestly, the first year I made sure I was with either Ryan Levinsky or Tyler Baxley because I was not going to change a diaper. And but just over time, that obedience to God and, doing things out of obligation and realizing how blessed I am in my life, that I need to, show my thankfulness to God by serving.
That's right.
Now I enjoy it, and so.
Yeah, and for the record, I still subscribe to the philosophy of you create them, you change them. That's basically my rule. But Dana's grown beyond that. Dana's grown beyond that one. So we see the blessing. Well, what would you guys say then? Okay, because we know that there's many, many people here that are serving in some way, whether it's on campus, serving other people through Northbridge Church, or whether it's doing something off campus to serve people that don't even many times have a clue that who we are. Or also kind of like what you're doing, Christy. For the record, I am convinced that the heart of God is we have opportunities to serve in ventures and organizations that have nothing to do with Northbridge Church, the corporate organization, but it's still the church. We're still the church. We're still the Word of God. We're still the salt, and we're still salt and light. And so we have opportunities in other organizations to serve. Maybe you find yourself someone out here finds himself not jumping in the pool, not getting into the game, whatever metaphor you want to use, what would you say to someone that's kind of on the sidelines just thinking about coming in? What would you say? Any of you?
I think for some of us, that can be the missing piece in your walk. Whether you're kind of like, what's missing? There's something missing. I know I'm a Christian. I know I'm attending services like I should be. I know I'm doing this and this and this and this right, but something is still missing. And for you, it was for me in a lot of ways. It's God has blessed me. Now it's my time to bless others with the service that I can provide. I coach a kids baseball team, and I say this to my own kids all the time. You can't win if you don't play, right? Get in the game. You're never going to enjoy life to the fullest until you get in the game. You're not going to enjoy your church experience, your relationship with God in the fullest until you get in the game somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
And Christianity isn't a spectator sport. We were saved for service. We weren't saved to sit on the sidelines. And so like what you said, get in the game. We need to roll up our sleeves. We need to put our work boots on, so to speak, and get out there and be the hands and feet of the body of Christ. And we've got to do that in big and small ways every single day.
Yeah. I might also say find that passion that you have and use that in a way to serve. For example, my small group, we have a guy who just absolutely loves sports. And so kind of what was brought to his heart is to organize a golf tournament in order to raise money to donate to a ministry, to an organization in Republic. That brought fire out in this guy. Mm-hmm. And it was something that he loves and he's passionate about, and he found a way to bless other people through that passion.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think sometimes people don't see that there's a need, or they think that someone else is filling that seat. And there's definitely needs. It might look like there's enough people handling the nursery or sound, but there's probably people that have had to step up and do maybe more than their share. I just think there's always a need, and get involved, even if it is out of obligation. And I think God will change your heart as you are involved.
That's a good word, Dana, because here's the thing. If you come in, you go, oh, the lights are up, sound sounds okay, people up here worshiping, and people leading us in worship, so everything's good, everything's good. And that's not the case. That's not the case. The reality is a lot of times this whole crazy organism here is held together with duct tape and gum, bubble gum at times. And so there are times where things, we think from the outside looking in, oh, everything's taken care of, everything's good, they don't need me here. And that is so far from the case. Matter of fact, one story, I shared this in the first hour, that Brenda worked so hard to make sure the tech team is together. And again, now you might immediately go, I'm not a computer guy. That's not for me. Well, hold on there. Hold your horses there, Kimosabi. You push a button. How hard is that? How hard is pushing a button and learning when to push a button? Because one of the things, of all the hard things that we do here, sometimes we have difficulty finding a light person to turn on and off these lights. And Brenda will work overtime sometimes getting people in, or even her doing it herself after she's worked a shift on another area and needs a day or week or two off to worship just like the rest of us. And she'll do it because no one else will. And I've given her permission, for the record. I've said, Brenda, maybe one Sunday we don't have a light person. And now some of you are like going, oh, yeah, well, you know me. I'm being serious here. I'm saying, what if we just go ahead? If we don't have a light person, let's not have a light person. And let's just go ahead and just have regular house lights up, and then the nuance of the, okay, well, let's lower it for videos and so we can see the projection, and let's lower it so we can kind of worship in intimacy and privacy. That's gone. Let's just worship with full house lights on, and you know what? If you miss out on that experience, then maybe that's a way to show people, hey, we need folks. We need folks to help and serve, because we don't have every position filled. And for the record, we never will. Okay? We get that too, because as we grow as a church, as a group, we're going to have more needs. And there's going to always be this healthy tension where we're saying, man, let's leverage all of our people's talents and skills. And so that's kind of the healthy thing that we live in. So, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for representing the church body. And thank you for serving your church, and more importantly, thank you for serving the people in the world around us. So big hand to say thank you for them speaking. Appreciate you. Guys, here's what we want to do. Okay, hear me clearly. This church is incredible. How you serve, how you will step out and help people. Sometimes the people we serve, they know they're being served. You know, you come into worship and the lights are on, the music's going, you know, and the coffee's out and it's warm, and you know there's donuts out there. You know you're being served at that time. But then there's other people and other times when we serve that the people we serve have no clue what we're doing. You know, like when we do the gifts for foster kids, one of the things, if you've never noticed this, when we bring the gifts in for Christmas, we don't wrap them. And you might think, and one person told me that once. They said, you know, it'd be a nice touch if we wrap the gifts. And we said, no, we don't want to do that. And they looked at me like, why? And we said, because we want to serve not just the foster kids, but the families of these foster kids. And so what a blessing it is to give this toy, give this gift to these foster parents and say, use your own wrapping paper. Don't mention that this was charity, this was given to you, but we want the kids to feel like that you bought this gift with your own hard-earned money and with your own resources, and don't even talk about Northbridge. Don't mention us. Why? Because it's not about us. It's about connecting with God's Spirit and serving where He would lead us. And so hear me clearly. What we're talking about today is not some red-faced preacher screaming at you saying you're not doing enough. Okay? Because the reality is I think this church is wonderful. I'm so proud to be a part of this organization and this body. But also I understand that we have this tension with just the geography of where we live, that we will always feel this stress and feel this tension and this pressure that if we don't think about it or talk about it for even a few months, we will revert into this. What is the tension I'm talking about? I'm talking about the tension of being a grace-filled, Christ-centered church from the New Testament versus being an American, please me now, give it to me now, consumer Christianity model that every church in America fights against. Every church in America, we have this pressure here. Every Christian in America has this pressure to be this consumer Christianity or this consumer Christian. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about a person who says, I will go to church if it meets my needs. Or if you're real altruistic, you'll say, well, I'll go find a church that meets my family's needs. And if my family their needs are being met, I'm there. And if not, I'm out of there. Forget it. I'm out of there. I'm gone. I'm long gone. And now some of you right now are probably pushing back on me going, well, Tony, hey, I love my kids and I want them to have an awesome experience. And I hear you. But there's a subtle thing though that remember what's the road to hell paved with? Good intentions, right? And so that's a good intention, but there's a bigger picture that we have to understand as being the church of Jesus Christ. The bigger picture is this, is that the church does not exist for you. The church does not exist for us. Here's the truth. We are the church. We are the church. The church does not exist for us. We are the church. And we exist for this world. Do you get the difference here? Okay? The church, we should not be looking at Christ. Now, and who I'm talking to right now, I'm talking to Christ followers, and I'm talking to people who consider themselves owners of this organization, owners of Northbridge, okay? And so if you're sitting back and you're a Christ follower and you're an owner of this church, you're sitting back saying, well, no, this church and this organization, it exists for my needs. No. You are part of this. You are a part of this, and we exist for the world. And we, as American Christians, really have gotten that backwards. And here's the reason why. I'm going to give you a little brief history lesson here that will help understand why we've gotten to where we are. It's my one chance that I get every few months to make my history degree be worth the 4 years I spent getting it, so I feel real good about that. When Jesus first announced in the New Testament about the church, remember, he said, this is my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. You know what the word was that he used for church? He used the word ecclesia. Or if you're from the Ozarks, it's ecclesia, okay? Ecclesia, however you want to pronounce it. And you know what that word means? It doesn't mean church. You know what it means? It means gathering. Gathering. And so Jesus was literally saying, when he looked out at his people and the people that were following him, he said, this is my gathering, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And I find it interesting because then from that point on, as Peter talked about the church, as Paul talked about the church, as there's all these different folks talking about the church in the New Testament, they use the word ecclesia. And for the record, ecclesia was not a sacred term. It was not a term that was used for religious gatherings until that point, until Jesus used it. It was really a government term. It was a term that was used to talk about government issues or business. And so, for instance, when a town would come together to vote, they called it the ecclesia. So it was a political term, and Jesus hijacked that verb that was used in for civic reasons and said, this describes my people. So why, when we interpret, and in the New Testament we see the word church used instead of gathering, why was that? Well, let's go on into history. So for 300 years, Christian movement, the following of Jesus, the way of Jesus, the gathering of Jesus, they were outsiders. They were the lowest of the low. They were the poorest of the poor. They were rebels. They were saying no to the Roman way. They were thumbing their nose to society and saying there was a better way to live than saying that Caesar is Lord. And they refused to play that game. And so they were always on the outside. They would have to worship in people's homes. They would have to worship in hidden places, in grottos. And no, that is not a place just to eat lunch. Okay, that was also describing a cave. They would hide in Rome. They would go and worship in literally the tombs, the catacombs, the graveyard, and the sewers of Rome in order to be able to worship God without fear of being interrupted and arrested. And so they would do that, the gathering of Jesus. But something happened in 300 A.D., some 300 years after the founding of this gathering of Christ followers. And it was a guy, a Roman leader, an emperor. His name was Constantine. And he becomes a Christian. He comes out and says, I am a follower of Jesus now. And there's all sorts of debate as to was that pure motivation? Was that a political thing? And that's not for us to decide today. The fact of the matter is he declared he was a Christian. And so what happens? Well, all the wealthy people that want to curry favor with Rome, all the people that are trying to move upwards and forwards, hey, if the emperor's a Christian, guess what I'm going to be? I'm going to be a Christian now, okay? And so we see now all of a sudden this influx of wealth coming into the church. And now hear me clearly, this is not a diatribe on money, okay? For the fact of the matter, I like to get money. I hope to make more money down the road in order to give better things to my family, in order to bless people around me and bless his church, you know? So don't hear me say, oh, money's a bad thing. Oh, no. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying the reality of what happened in Rome was these people who were far from God when Christianity was kind of taboo and out. Now when it's the in thing, you see this wealthy class of people, this gentry, come into the church. Well, guess what? If you have money and you're used to a comfortable life and you're used to good things, are you going to be saying, yeah, I want to go to the sewer to worship? Yeah, send me into a graveyard to worship. No. You want a decent place to hang out, don't you? You want a decent building to go into. So they started building these grand edifices called basilicas. Okay, that was the Latin term. They called these churches were basilicas, and they were beautiful and ornate, and oftentimes they would build these basilicas on top of the grounds where the martyrs died, or on top of the graves of the original apostles, and they would really spend a lot of time, and people began to think about, well, we're going to worship God, we're going to be the gathering of God, and we're going to go to the basilica to do that. And so they started beginning to develop that. Well, you know what? As Christianity expanded and as went into Europe and the Gothic languages, you know what? The Goths and the Europeans, specifically the Germanic tribes, what they called the basilicas was kirches. Kirches. And that was a term that literally meant house of the Lord. House of the Lord. And so then when the translations of the Greek scriptures began to be translated into the languages of Europe, into Germany, or into German, into Spanish, into English, instead, when they come across this word ecclesia, that literally means the gathering of Jesus followers, a gathering of Christ followers, they would go, oh, the interpreters, they had said, the gathering of Christ followers, well, that's us going to Kirche. What do you think where do you think we get the word church from? Kirche. It's German for house of the Lord. And so we see now, as Christianity is spread into the New World, why the New World, a.k.a. North America and South America, we say the church is not a gathering of Christ followers, but the church is Kirche, which was a basilica, which was a place for people who want to be a Christ follower can come to. And we sit back and we go, the church is not a gathering, but it's a place. And I'm telling you, no. The church is a gathering of Christ followers. And we have that tension. We just have that tension. It's just part of who we are because we're Americans. And so I read and I look at this scripture found in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, and we're going to look at next week, we're going to look at this passage even closer in greater detail because it's a wonderful passage to look at. Verse 13, and found in chapter 9, it says, because of service by which you proved yourselves, men will praise God for the obedience that accompanies your confession of the gospel of Christ, and for your generosity in sharing with them and with everyone else. You see this? We serve not just because we just do it, but there's reasons for us to serve, and we find them in this scripture here. It says that as we serve, we're going to experience people praising God, people experiencing the good things of God through our service. So the two things I want to talk about today, and the 2 points I want to get is that we just as a church, even though we are great, the church just does a great job serving, we just have to fight every day to not allow this consumer mentality to take hold in our hearts and start saying, well, the church exists for me. And then the second thing we need to do is this eternal reality that's found in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. And this is what happens. Okay, this is what happens. Cliff, put up the first screen. Change lives. Change lives. Put up the second screen. Because of you. Because of you. You see, change lives don't happen in this world because we just decide one day we're going to build an edifice, a kirche, a basilica, and we're going to play some music and we're going to send out some cards and put up a sign saying, y'all come, and then we're just going to expect God to do some grand dramatic thing. But where change lives comes from is because just Christ followers seeing people in their lives, seeing people that are hurting, seeing people that have an emptiness there, and they just extend themselves. Hey, how can I serve you? Hey, how can I pray for you? Hey, would you come with me and let's share a donut together? Let's share a bagel and talk, and we're going to sit around a table and talk about the things of God. Another way we can say this, look at this. Cliff, pop up the next screen. Hear this clearly. This is a blessing to you as well. Because of your serving, God is changing lives. God is changing lives. So church, hear this. I alluded to this earlier. You know, it might be, we get, the scriptures warn us and tell us to not grow weary in doing good. And why would it do that? Because we grow weary in doing good. Because that is a classic tension. We are worn out. We're tired sometimes. And so what I tell you is, man, you might be finding yourself just kind of just emotionally down. Well, one of the things we do to try to guard against that is we really do lean deeply into this team approach in ministry. You know, if you look, there's very few people that work in the same area week in and week out and week in and week out. Why? Because we want to try to protect against burnout there and growing weary. But the reality is even in the midst of us trying to protect, people get tired. And I tell you, if you're tired right now, make no mistake. Make no mistake. Your serving has changed lives. And my confidence is this. As we continue to grow, your serving will change lives. I told the first hour this, and I tell you, I'm just convinced, and maybe I'm partial and maybe I'm blind here, but this is what I believe as one of your pastors. If the Lord were to grade us for our serving today, I believe we'd get pretty high marks. I really do. Kay, do you think that too? I think we would. I think we would. But here's what I also believe, and I'm convinced of. Just because we get high marks today doesn't mean we're going to get high marks a year from now. And the Lord will continue to give us opportunities and continue to give us places to serve. And we could choose to say, no, we don't want to do that. That's going to make us uncomfortable. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the money. We don't have this. We don't have that. We're not going to do it. Oh, I don't want to be a pastor, and I don't want to lead an organization. I don't want to be a part of a group that gets failing marks from God because we just aren't willing to serve when He gives us opportunity. I'm so convinced that we're going to have even greater opportunities to serve in the next 18 months, 36 months, because here's what happens. As we serve in little areas, what happens? We gain muscle, we gain wisdom, and we can be trusted with larger projects and larger things. And as we develop those things, God gives us those opportunities. And so what we have to do, church, is pay attention. Pay attention, not to give in to the consumer mindset, and to just constantly be looking at, God, how can we serve your kingdom? How can we serve the people around us, the world around us? And so as we conclude today, what I want to do is just challenge you in this area. If first of all, again, 95% of us serve in some way or another. And I say, as your pastor, and I'm not asking you to do this, don't start doing this, but just me here, I applaud you. I applaud you. Thank you. Thank you for just giving of yourself, giving of your time, giving of your resources, giving of your passions. You deserve the applause, and I thank you for that. But I also recognize there's some of us that, we're Christ followers. We count ourselves as being Christians, little Jesuses, and for whatever reason, whatever the excuse is, I don't have time, I'm too busy, I got too many other distractions, whatever the thing is, you're just not getting into the pool. You're choosing not to get into the game. And my challenge to you is, right now, just when I pray, the band's going to come up, and during that time, maybe you just whisper a prayer to God into something like this: Lord, where would you have me serve? Where would you have me find my place? And it might be that God reveals, and God's been wrestling with you for a while about an area, and you know what area it is you need to serve, and what you need to do is go just immediately and directly to those people in that department and say, hey, I don't know what this means, but help me figure it out. How can I serve? How can I use my talents, use my gifts? How can I just use myself to help the kingdom of God and be a part of that? Maybe if you're sitting back going, Tony, I really don't know where to start. I don't know. Well, this is what I invite you to do. Get your communication card, write your name, your contact information on it, and then in the memo side say, I would like to talk to a pastor about serving. And what we'll do is we'll sit down and visit. And we'll just talk about, okay, what does that look like? And where would be a good place for you to fit here? And I'd love to have that discussion with you. And we can go from there and just see where God takes us. Those are the challenges, and those are the encouragements for you today. Pray with me. And Father, we thank you, God. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this movement, this ecclesia, this gathering of Christ lovers, Christ followers. Lord, whether we gather here in this physical building or we gather online somewhere in America, somewhere in another part of the world, my prayer is that you just expose our hearts, expose our minds. You just rifle through our thoughts, our attitudes. And God, that you would purify us. God, convict us of times when we have this culture of consumerism, where we just say, what's in it for me, and how am I going to be blessed, and how am I going to get good things out of this? And God, just strike those from our lives. Convict us of that. And God, we confess it to you as sin. And Lord, I pray that you would build into us a passion to serve your kingdom, to serve the world around us, to introduce them to you and your ways, God, to your Spirit. And just continue, Lord, I pray, my prayer is that you would just continue to entrust Northbridge with opportunities to impact the world around us, our culture around us, God. God, I pray that you would just continue to draw people here, Christ followers who want to engage, roll up their sleeves, put on their servant's towel, and pitch in to draw people to your kingdom. I just pray that you would continue to allow that to expand, Father, and you trust us with more and more of those resources, God. Have your way in our hearts and lives today, in Jesus' strong and powerful name. Amen. I invite you to stand to your feet and join the band in this song.
To follow Jesus, I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. No turning back. And I will follow you. I will follow you. I will follow you, my Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. And I will follow you. I will follow you. I will follow you, my The world behind me, the world behind me, the cross before me, the world behind me, the cross before me, the world behind me, the cross before me. And I will follow you, my God.
Amen. Wow, what a powerful time it's been this morning. Just a powerful time of worshiping God, just in song and hearing from people who are serving. Thank you, Garrett and Christy and Dana, for sharing. I know it takes a lot sometimes to come up here and share what's from your heart, and so we appreciate that in what you did. Let me just ask you a question as we as you guys get ready to leave out the door. Has the power of the gospel been lost? Let me just ask you that. Has the power of the gospel been lost among Christians, even more importantly? And that's the question that we're going to look at over the starting February the 3rd for about 8 weeks. And as we look at a series called The Gospel Revolution, have we become Christians that just kind of have become caught in the monotony of religion, where we just want to check things off as we go? Check, we've gone to church on Sunday morning. Check, we've gone to small group. Check, I've done my daily Bible study. And we just get caught in just the monotony of religion and rules and tasks. And so that's what we're going to look at, and it's going to be a powerful time. The gospel is something that has the power to show us the deepest, darkest recess of our heart and our soul. But yet it also has the power to show us compassion, grace, and mercy, which Christ has to offer us. And so we truly believe that the Christian, Christ follower, their life can be revolutionized by living the gospel out. And so that's, again, what we're going to look at for 8 weeks, starting on February the 3rd. We invite you to be a part of that. One, just by being a part of the Sunday morning experience as we teach about that from the platform. Two, we're going to also kind of discuss that even further, open that up even further in small group as we discuss that in small groups for those 8 weeks. And so what we're asking you to do is, as you join a small group, to get a copy of this. This is a workbook that we're just encouraging you to purchase. We're asking one copy per family. $10, just one copy per family. If you want a copy for each of you, that's fine too. $10, but let me just say this also. If that is something that's difficult, then don't worry about it. We still want you to have a copy of it, and we still want you to be a part of a small group. So that's what's going on starting February 1st. We encourage you to be a part of it. If you want to, if you want a copy of the book and you want to pay for that, you can do that just by putting a check or a $10 bill or whatever in an envelope and just dropping it in the offering box over there. Just write small group material on that. Okay? So grab you one of those. They're on that table out there on your way out the door. God bless you, and I really hope that you've been blessed, and I hope that you've heard the challenge today of serving. You're dismissed.